Hello and welcome back to the table for another episode of the Finding Atoria podcast. You're with me, Malcolm, and I've got a full studio today. It's a different sort of vibe, a different sort of time. We've had our caffeine and we're meeting later now. Is everybody doing well? Let's go around and say hi, Tori.
Hi.
And Jess, welcome in.
Hi, I haven't had my caffeine yet, though. It was too hot.
It's way too late in the day for you to not have had caffeine.
All right, fine. I've had one cup of tea.
There
My
it is.
second cup of tea is too hot. And I need more because I was up late last night.
And hello, Arcadia.
Hi, Tori. He said to say hi, Tori.
Oh, hi, Tori.
We're here on a special non-disjointed episode. It's our
Sinking fields of the West.
birthday episode. A special happy birthday to our Arcadia and Jess.
Happy
Festivities happened. They continue on today, but we're down to business on the Finding Atoria podcast. And we decided a while ago we were going to try to do some different things at the table, have some different game experiences to talk about. And one of the game experiences that we talked about was getting into this what's our official version, Tori?
5.5.
5.5 of Dungeons and Dragons. And
I still got to giggle about they're like, don't read too much into this. Everybody else is like, it's always been 5.5.
they were kind enough to set us out a starter set for 5.5. And this is something I believe that is marketed and put together for first-time players usually, is going to be a good introduction, or if you have not played in their more modern rules, something for the beginning player to do. And Jess and Cole, who is not with us but was at the table at the time, both sat down and had Arcadia take them through the starter set beginners adventure. And I'm going to do a little bit of back and forth and around the room and kind of want to hear more about that and how that experience went. First of all, forgetting the price point on it, it's a lovely little box with
About $60.
about $60 at your local
I feel
book.
like all the starter sets are,
It's
right
around
in
there.
around
Around
that
there.
point. Yeah.
Comes with some gorgeous artwork. I'm looking at a vicious-looking mimic with a long purple tongue on the side of the box, and then, of course, some heroes and dragons on the front of it. But it is a starter set. It is a beginner's guide. It is a welcome to the game edition.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely meant for those who haven't explored the world or a recent version of the world yet. Want to know what comes with it?
Lay it out there.
Other than it does, I will agree with you. Beautiful artwork, just like everything that we've seen for 5.5, all the books and everything. Gorgeous artwork that they've done. What you get for your $60, a quick start guide, which is a rules light, informative piece of information, piece of document that helps you know what to do. A player's guide, 3 different adventure booklets that are allowed or are anticipated to take you to level 3. 9 double-sided poster maps, 5 handouts, a combat tracker, 8 character class boards, 210 cards for characters, items, monsters, NPCs, and spells, 273 tokens for monsters, terrain, and resources, and 11 game dice. So you get a polyhedral set, and then they give a couple, like you get 2d20, so they double up a couple on some of the dice.
They left out the partridge. They left out the pear tree. But you were using words like tokens and cards.
Yeah.
I know you can't hear me. I know I was doing that on purpose. Sorry.
I will say lots and lots to say about this. And I think gearing this more towards those who haven't played Dungeons and Dragons or are interested in playing the game. This particular set took up a lot of space.
So your game setup is going to require more space per person with 200 and something cards, with tokens galore. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here
Yep.
because we're doing this under the lens of playability, of fun, and the space issues I want to get back to. But Jess, you did something that you're usually not a huge fan of. You jumped in and played one of the pre-made characters that was offered there,
I
correct?
did. This was, I think, actually the first time I've ever played a pre-made character.
So tell me a little bit about how they set you up. They set you up at first level, am I right?
Yes, like the way they did these is that I guess it's literally designed to take you to third level and only to third level.
Right.
Like once you finish the adventure, they're basically like
Reroll a character.
re-roll and start a new character essentially, because this was a starter character.
Right.
Now you've got the experience playing, you're ready to make your own.
And I wanted to touch on that a little bit. We've got some things, I think, between the pre-show conversations and the night of playing that game where we had some big questions as to the experience. And I think that it needs to be under the lampshade of a starter kit, a beginning kit. They know, I think, that you're not getting the full run through the game for those 3 levels and 3 adventures. What kind of character did you go with, and what's the new experience now that you've opened yourself up to just picking something up that you had very minimal to no input in the creation of the character? How'd it go, and what did you choose?
Okay, so they actually do let you. They're not fully pre-made.
That's what I was going to point out.
So
Is
they
they're
give
sort
you
of
a
like a
s-
half-made.
A skeleton of, and then you get to flesh it out a bit, huh?
Right. So like they basically you have like this a character,
card?
that does all the class stuff.
Okay.
And then if you are a caster, then you choose which spells from like this pile of this deck of cards essentially. And like there's like a backstory card and a few other like what species are you card and things like that. So
Very Daggerheart-esque in that regard.
So you're picking up something instead of tracking this all on a character sheet. I've got a character class card that's going to give me all my abilities and benefits and things there. Then another one for the race that I choose. And if I'm a caster, I'm going to actually go to, now is it a school of magic sort of thing still? Or you're just a caster and you have access to these spells?
They don't dig into schools in particular. They have a very limited number of, like at level 1, they tell you what spells you have.
Sure.
And so it's a very limited amount of spell work available to you.
And it sounds like
You
they're
agree?
I think so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is the Cole, who's not here, would be better able to speak to that,
Mm-hmm.
because what I did was I'm our perpetual caster player. Like I like playing wizards and I have a
Wizard
bard, and so in the spirit of all right, let me try to in the spirit of this is a starter kit. Let me try something I've never actually played before, so I'm coming at it a little bit with a blank slate, more so than if I, played the wizard or something where I'm coming in with a full set of expectations.
what did you end up playing?
I played a fighter.
Very cool.
So first time playing a fighter. So that was.
And I've
very
got to tell you,
interesting.
Katie, right now, and I'm going to give us a peek inside the studio, is just unboxing this thing again. We're in a relatively large space, large enough for 4 people to sit down and podcast, and it's just thrown up on the room. It is just
Right.
and you're not using every piece of this every time that you play.
Correct.
So let me get to a couple of questions here that could help new players decide if this is something that they want to go towards. This is to both of you, but the world, the starter adventure that you did,
Is this the one you did?
how was the world? Did you feel like you were someplace specific, or could have this been high fantasy setting B on a list of 500 of them?
Definitely, in my opinion, high fantasy setting B anywhere.
Yeah, to me, it felt more like somewhere specific, but I think that had a lot to do with the skill of the DM than
Okay.
what they gave us in the box.
Okay.
I think very purposefully they, there's no like, hey, you're meeting up at, or, anything like that. It is like, you are outside a cave
Right. And there you are. You're there.
You're a group and you're
Right.
outside a cave.
So they didn't really want to spend, and it sounds like to me like they're doing a good job of, whether it's a good thing or not, preventing paralysis by analysis. You're not going to sift through the spell books. You'll never get off the ground, and you guys don't need to go through the party formation session 1/2 at the tavern where, you know what, I don't like you and I shouldn't like you, but damn it, I like you and we should go adventuring together. Here you are. Here is your setup, and here are your challenges. Question for the DM in this case: did you feel like it was a story that you could do something with? I know that sounds, but were you given enough to go ahead and run an adventure proper with this starter set?
For me, as an experienced GM, yes. But so just to give a little bit of background, if someone has played D&D a lot over the years, you will recognize, like Tori, like you'll recognize, that, like, I don't know if I know you don't GM, but like going through the modules, there's usually a lot. There's like
I've gone
ton
through
of information in the older generation modules that lay out the setting and the game and what's happening and all this other
And
kind of
erred
stuff.
on the side of detail.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. And in this module, it's almost the exact opposite. Like you get enough to know the setting, to describe it, and to give information on it. And you get enough to know a general feel for the NPCs that are involved, whether those NPCs are, neutral NPCs in a tavern, or if they are enemies you might fight.
Sure.
But really, that's about it. Like you get a piece of information that sort of says there's a guard here and his stance is like he's neutral. Like if you approach him, he's going to respond to how you respond.
Now, you mentioned a comparison earlier in a different context, just talking about the contents of the game box, where it had a Dagger Hardiel feel to you. That what you just described feels very much like that shared narrative,
Absolutely.
we're minimalist GM influence there.
Yeah.
How did that go for your players? Let me turn to, and then I'm going to bug Bird in a minute and get all of those wonderful manuals out of her hand. But I just want to know if you're like feeling this. Is this something that you're like, well, this sounds. But first of all, for what we were discussing, how did you view that as a player? Were you getting enough to play a pre-made character well and make decisions, or was it a lot of, all right, hold on, let's talk this out sort of thing? Did you feel that there was flow through with it?
I mean, from a player perspective, and to be fair, we also did have a very experienced GM at the helm here. So, no matter what, Arcadia is going to be able to run a good game no matter what she has available to her, whether that's a really detailed module or kind of bare bones or absolutely nothing. So
Her ability to take it, regardless of what it was, and make it into something engaging in his story then.
right, like when it comes to the backstory, I actually kind of liked how they did it, because like the character, it wasn't a fully pre-made character with here's your name, here's your backstory, here's this. There was like, yeah, I wasn't really picking a lot of abilities or anything, but I could pick the puzzle pieces and put them together to make something that felt more like mine.
They kind of gave you that fighter chassis and said, fill out the rest of it and make it your own.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yes,
got it.
I got to pick which backstory I wanted. I got to pick which race, and then
Sure.
that did involve a lot of tokens on the
You got little abilities,
card and-
just like you do playing the game.
Sure. So
yeah, and so that was it. Made it because we were basically all right. We're gonna put this together and play right now.
sure.
I didn't pre-think of usually if we're going to start a new game, I come to the table with my character already made.
Right.
I've done my spell list, I've got that backstory, I've got a whole long backstory written,
But this wasn't
and
that.
this I didn't have
Yeah.
that, so it kind of came up during play. Like if I got
on the
asked a
fly?
question about like why
Yeah.
You did it on the fly.
The yes
exactly.
and.
So
Yeah.
it was yes and it's like, oh well,
Which
I guess
actually
it was this.
we talked
So-
about after the game. For us, I thought that part of it made the game a lot more engaging.
Well, it
I
gives
thought
you-
getting to do that at the table in the
Right.
moment, make those decisions was a lot more fun.
As characters or people would in that setting, you're not going to walk up to somebody in the tavern and go, "Here's my bona fides. You know, this is my entire lore story." You know what I mean? Like, decide
Yeah.
if you would like to travel with me. You're going to get that out on the road. You're going to get that in game and in real time.
And can I just say, just like, because I didn't quite get to this, and I think it's important for people who want to play, especially if they're going to sit down and try and GM this. If you understand that you are going to have to improv, you are going to have to just decide in the moment what the NPCs' motivations are, how they're going to respond, what they're going to do,
and the whys.
Are they going to attack? Are they not going to attack? How would they respond to how the characters are playing? If you understand that when you walk into this, it's an improv game.
Really?
In order to do a narrative story with the other players at the table, you'll do fine. If you aren't ready for that, you might struggle.
Okay. And I think that just lent to the the need to have a good solid DM initially to kind of feel that out and how it's going to go. Tori, 5.5. Are you ready? Do you want some tokens?
No.
You don't know if you want tokens. You have to pull a card and find out.
No.
It's on a map somewhere.
It's a different game.
It's a different game.
It's a different
I'm going to say
game.
it. Paper, pencil, dice.
Yes.
Like, and I know where it's going, and we'll do the Daggerheart comparisons as much as we need to, but that's not for us. That is for new players after they've polled millions of gamers and said what's important to you, and they saw what happened with different narrative. Like, it was the season of narrative TTRPGs. I think it's a little bit of giving what people want.
I love the fact that they leaned into that narrative aspect of it. But in regards for a new player, particularly if it's everyone is new at the table, if you aren't adept at the yes and, if you aren't adept at the improv, that could be a challenge and a wall to playing the game, which I think would be unfortunate. But any type of game that does it this way is going to face that challenge.
And
Others do.
I want to respond to that a little bit because we are looking at this through the lens of this is more difficult for the player. When you're getting an entire generation of gamers that are coming out of that Critical Role YouTube watching, that those are the skills that they pick up. It's not, mechanics combinations and things like that. That's what the new game is. So it may be a response to a new audience. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think there is definitely an audience for all of the parts and pieces. We all sort of were like, that's a different game. That it doesn't suit our style, but I can definitely see people who would want that because honestly, the parts and pieces are gorgeous. They're not horribly hard to use, and they do have their added benefit. Just like honestly, in my review of Daggerheart, I sort of said the same thing. It's just not our style typically.
Well, it's more that I want to get into. I have to find something about this game that Tori wants to play. Because right now you just keep looking at that box like
it is D&D. It really is.
Look, I don't have ADHD, but it seems like an awful lot to pay attention to when you're used to a paper and pencil.
It's really taking theater of
that's
the
my
mind
problem.
and replacing it with some gorgeous, because that was 3.0, wasn't it? Like that we're going to get back to the grid on the map with the things that look like the things that we want to do. And I think that they're trying to do some of that. We're going to talk about it more. We're overdue for a little break here on Finding a Toria, discussing the Dungeons and Dragons 5.5 version starter box set with people that have played it, people that have run it, somebody who's slightly afraid of it.
I'm not gonna lie.
It's discomforting to watch her unpack all of those things.
No, for real. It's giving me anxiety.
Yes.
Okay, I know we have to move on, but I just have to make the comment as you talk about me unpacking an entire box full of I read the contents, full of everything. And what's the one thing that is not there?
I don't see a character sheet.
There are character
Oh,
sheets
those are
of a sort.
cards.
Yeah, it's like
I don't see
Dice.
a player's handbook.
There's no
There's a
dice.
very light guidebook. There's no DM screen.
Oh,
You
oh,
have
we're
all of
getting this out
these.
now.
You have
Yes.
all of these beautiful,
find it.
like cards that give you the stats for the monsters and tokens that you put on the map.
Now let me ask you this. Let me stop you short.
and
there.
you have them in front of you, and
What
the
do you-
players can see all of it.
What if that's intentional? What if that is part of their breaking down that barrier for the shared narrative story element, and that this screen creates an adversarial complex between the players in the game? Something to think about while we take a break here on Finding Atoria.
Go for the segue.
I think you need the camera on my face
Yeah, there
for
was
that
no
one.
way to describe that look. It wasn't kind, people. We'll be right back, or at least some of us will. Enjoy the break.
When you sit down at the table, open the books, and spill out the dice, you're looking for an epic adventure. Tabletop role-playing is more popular than ever, and every day new players join our great hobby. My name is Steve Kellums, and I'm the host of the Epic Adventure Podcast. I'm just a fan with a radio voice, but joining me on this quest will be Mike Howlett, the co-founder of Oddfish Games, a great independent game company, and Christina Stiso, a PhD student studying game-based learning. Together, we will discuss all things tabletop gaming, from character creation to world building to setting and pacing. We will give you tips and tricks to make your games, well, epic. Like and subscribe to the Epic Adventure Podcast today.
This episode of Finding Atoria is brought to you by Wordleaf Media. The Finding Atoria podcast is looking for guests for our upcoming episodes. Are you or someone you know passionate about the TTRPG community and have a story to share? If so, contact us on our socials or reach out at wordleafmedia.com/Finding Atoria. And now back to your program. Welcome back from the break on Finding Atoria, where for the third time we come back to you from the break. Please go and subscribe to our Patreon because there's so much fantastic stuff on it.
like the first two attempts.
Like the first two times that we tried to record the second part of this. Oh, that's not good. That really rivals the guys. I can't hear me. That rivals.
I can't hear me.
Okay.
You may not be listening to us for any TTRPG content. It may just be to listen to us make fools of ourselves.
We're gonna
We
get
will make you laugh.
right back on track.
I would watch. I would watch that. I would listen to that. Sinking field to the north.
Okay.
Okay,
It
I'm
is
done.
my job.
Let's go back to the starter set for Dungeons and Dragons. Back to the matter at hand. Come on.
Okay.
Rally.
Here we go. Come on.
Rally.
Once again,
Rally,
right
rally,
now.
rally.
Hey,
Stop saying rally. Sorry. That's just making me laugh harder. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm good now. I think. Okay.
the stern look that went across the studio.
I'm not making eye
Yeah,
contact
okay,
with a
disappointed.
damn person
I-
right now.
I can't trust any of you. All right, so we are talking about the experience at the table with Arcadia, Jess, and Cole when they sat down, tried the starter adventure on the box set for the starter set to D&D 5.5. And there were a couple of things that we wanted to discuss, but the first one that we really wanted to say out loud, as we kind of taken some soft jabs at the game so far, is this is a starter set. It is not a full representation of the rules. It is not as much as the game can be, and it is designed for, I believe, and I would hope, accessibility. What did you guys want to speak to on that individually?
I know Jess has a lot to say about the character development, which I think is really important. So just ahead of that very quickly, I think what I would like to point out was that it was a little bit challenging to get up and going. It took us some time,
Okay.
even though it's meant to be simple.
Right.
We did acknowledge that a portion of that could be because we were looking for things that weren't there
Had some preconceived
because we have
notions.
experience with the game.
Walking in makes sense.
So it might go quicker and easier for inexperienced players. It is rules light. Not all of the rules are there.
Sure.
Enough of the rules are there to play and enjoy the game.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. And Jess, I know because you had some, especially from a character creation and development standpoint, some good thoughts on that. What did you find?
So like, I guess overall, yeah, like I had a great time. I did have a great time playing this. So I'm just thinking back to, just because at this point, I am a TTRPG gamer. I'm not, new to the game
You are
at
not
this
a
point. It feels like it sometimes simply because everybody else here has like 30 years of experience playing the game, and my paltry 2 to 3 years is nothing in comparison.
Still a gamer.
This is another age jab. This is happening again. This is
No,
just
I'm
us getting
yeah, you
old
old people.
again.
That's not what I just didn't
I'm
start
just
playing
joking
it when I was
with
a
you.
kid is all
Okay.
I'm saying. So like, but in this case, that is actually kind of an advantage because my learning to play was recent enough that I remember it a little, more clearly than I would if I had learned 30 years ago.
You could do a better comparative. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And yeah, like if I'd started when you guys did, then I wouldn't be able to do that as well because I probably wouldn't be able to remember that process.
And I
But-
did start you not with a starter set, but with the starter module.
Yes. Yeah,
When
so
you
we had a
first-
starter module, but I still did the whole full character creation and everything.
So, Jess, I want to, and I know that you've got more on that, but I think that your unique spellcaster character history, you picked up on some things almost immediately that were different or maybe even lacking in that experience for spellcasting, or how did you find that even not playing one, of course, how did you find that element of the game?
I think Cole found
Yeah,
out.
Cole found it because he's also often played a spellcaster.
Yeah.
So he was the one that told me about it. 'cause
Oh, okay,
obviously,
sorry.
I was playing as a fighter for this one,
Right.
but so since he's not here to talk about this, like what he noticed was that the spell casting modifier is used in this, but it's kind of difficult to tell which one to use. If
It's got to
already
be
know.
intuitive to the strength of that spellcaster.
Because they don't like the starter guide tells you to see your class sheet for which spellcasting modifier to use, but then your class sheet, if you're playing as a spellcaster, doesn't actually tell you which one to use. You're just kind of left to assume that it's the highest one.
The one with the bonuses.
Yeah. So if you're playing as a wizard, I mean, yeah, there's a bonus for your wisdom, but there's a higher bonus for your intelligence.
Okay.
And you're just kind of left to assume that you take the higher one, which is fine if that's what you would naturally do. But if it were me, I probably would have looked at that and gone, which one do I use? Because if I just take the highest one, that kind of feels like I could be cheating a little bit. Is that actually the rule, or I would overthink it personally?
And we spent a big time overthinking when you talk about the modifiers or the bonoses that you get
was
because of
gonna
your
say,
skill,
yeah.
your like
your ability.
your abilities. We spent 45 minutes, I think, trying to figure out what ability needed to be checked in order to do like something to check for traps, because there wasn't anything anywhere to right. It's investigation, but you don't have that on the character sheets, and there was nothing to tell you. And yet the adventure we started on, one of the very, very first things that happens is so spoilers. There's a trap, and wanted to, as a rogue, check for traps. Sure. There's a trap. I'm sorry. Anyway,
There it is. Was waiting for the correction of the line.
I know. I know. But anyway, and so we spent way too much time trying to figure out, based on what they had given us, what should be used, until we finally just were like, you know what, it's going to be DM's choice. And that was what allowed us to move forward with the game, was just a recognition that what you were going to check when you were trying to do something was really going to be just GM choice.
Okay.
Because it wasn't...
Roll me a.
Yeah, D&D is not that loose. So we were looking for something more specific.
That hemmed it in.
Yes, but it worked very well. Once we adjusted mentally to that idea, it worked very well.
And once again, those rules are going to be in the heavy version, in the full
actual
version,
PH.
ad nauseum in there and tell you exactly what to roll in. But for the rules light, that was a little bit lacking. How did you feel quickly, just from a GM standpoint, the beginning module was paced? Do you think, and I know that you didn't have a full complement, you had 2 at the table, which I'll get back into that in a second. How did it feel just to run it?
I actually, once I settled into the idea of sort of how it was laid out, I very much enjoyed it. It was just me deciding. I didn't have to go back and check the module to see how it was supposed to go so that they went in this certain direction or anything like that. It's a very, very loose framework for the GM and the players to narratively tell their story.
Very good.
And so once I recognized that that's what it was doing. It wasn't what I expected because it's not what I normally expect out of D&D. But once I understood that, it worked well. I thought it was very fun to GM, and I thought I had enough information to GM.
Very cool. I wanted to bounce this to Tori and to Jess. Jess, who actually played with this system and all of its accoutrement. And then Tori. Where do you think there would be value in the cards, the tokens, the placards, and then Jess, I wanted you to think about playing at the table usually, which whether it be laptop up, character sheet out, the footprint at the table you two had both mentioned to me before. Bird, do you think that you could get into something like this, how the way they present it? And then Jess, how did it feel to actually play it?
Okay, so the one thing I did think of, like, I can't make faces at any of this really, because I was the one who was buying the decks, and I bought the decks for 5th edition to go in the binders that were like the spells and magic items and that shit, and then I gave them
armor,
the packs,
monsters.
Yep.
Like you're playing,
and they were useful.
You're playing a wizard. Here's the wizard pack. You're playing you weren't at that table. I think I gave it to.
You gave me Ranger.
I gave you Ranger.
And I passed that. You did that for me. You made that binder and gave me all of that. And then I did the same thing for Jess because I was like, that's such a great idea.
But it was so I could see this working because that was the cards are easier than chasing it down in the player's handbook.
Right.
But that just with the tokens and stuff, like that seems like it's more than
what I liked about the tokens was it okay. What I don't like about the tokens is it replaces minis. What I liked about the tokens is it replaces minis.
Okay.
I love minifigures. I love, I'm too old, and back in the day, the Ral Parthas, getting them painted, they were beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful things that to put on the table were amazing. They get broken. They get, you have to have all this stuff to carry them and keep them safe. Picking out what you want. Do you have what you want? They get expensive.
I know it's all so fun, isn't it?
It is so much fun. I have a whole tote full of them. But having the tokens is an inexpensive or significantly less expensive way to have a visual on the field of the players, of the NPCs, of the BBEGs, etc.
Okay.
And also, it kind of felt to me like these are all meant to be like temporary, like,
right?
They're cardboard,
and we're right back into that. This is a starter set to get you to 3rd level, and no
this
more.
This is a training session. This is not the campaign that you're going to start with and then take to level 20. This is to teach you how the game kind of runs, and then once you hit that level 3, they go, okay, you've completed your training now. Go create a new character and play it for real.
And with all that being said, because I don't disagree with you, I would be the person that even for up until level 3, I would have it in some sort of protective sheet, in a binder somewhere, because you want it to last, to get through the sessions,
So what was it like, Jess, for you playing with all of those things? One of the comments that both you and Arcadia made to me was that there were 3 of you playing, and at a space where usually 5 or more of us will figure out how to sit down and game, and that the table was just packed. Did that differ your TTRPG experience to be outside of that theater of mind a little bit and have more visual references? And if so, was it positive? Was it neutral? Did you find it overwhelming or useful?
It was actually kind of funny because this actually felt like an old school way to play to me.
Because of all the
like
physical things.
Because of all the physical shit on the table. Because you know how I usually play? On my damn phone. I have the
Right.
D&D Beyond app. That's where I usually have my dice out, and like I just do everything in the D&D Beyond app. And the only thing I have on the table is my phone or a laptop if I feel like using that instead. Depends on if I'm GMing or not. I don't own a GM screen. I GM from my laptop instead, and the back of the laptop screen functions as my GM screen, so people can't see what I'm doing. And so like I always have that, and that's a pretty minimal footprint on the table. And I don't often have like a big map, and half the time we're not really even putting figures on the table sometimes, depending on what we're doing. And so it was actually really neat to see it with like, okay, there's the map on the table, and here are our figures, and we're moving, and it was kind of neat. It's like, okay, so this would be how I would play it, if I'd played 30 years ago.
Sure.
Without
It's how
my
we
phone.
started.
Right. So it was really interesting to me to get to experience that, because almost immediately I was like, all right, here, let me do it on my phone.
Okay.
And yeah, that takes up a lot. It takes up a much smaller footprint on the table, but it also means that I have to imagine a lot more of
It's
it
a
in my
lot more of
head.
that theater of the mind, and that gives you more of a shared, I guess, everybody can see the same thing, sort of idea. Now,
And a lot of longtime players have their maps out, whether it's a digital screen that's laid out for players or an actual map. A lot of people lay out their tables, and some people do it to phenomenal scale. It all depends on how much you want to invest in your game.
sure.
And then other people, it's completely digital. So I think that's all just going to sort of be preference.
So I had kind of a final question that I wanted to go around the room with. Anybody can get in any other points that they want to. I think that you've given a lot of great detail. Everybody here's played D&D of different versions for various amounts of time. Was not starting with the starter set of 5.5, right?
No.
I've read online where people are finding value, people like us that have played the game previously, into doing that and starting anew as a fresh player to kind of get a clean slate on a game. And then going through those 3 levels with the rules light and reapproaching it, and then jumping again as we did as youngsters into those books to flesh out characters. What are your thoughts on reapproaching D&D? We've had so many conversations where I don't even think that we play Dungeons and Dragons with the various rules that it's a version
we've
of.
created
but
our own
it's-
game.
It's homebrew to hell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Like
Even mine, and I'm just
Right.
like,
homebrew to hell. Like,
so.
but we've never been raw people. So
What would be, if anything, we'll go around here. But Tori, we'll start with you because you've got thoughts now. What is the benefit, of any, to going at a raw run through a new version of a game that we've really just kind of Frankensteined over the decades?
I could see it giving a fresh perspective, especially because I haven't really. Once again, I have not looked at 5.5 that much. Like I don't
Yeah,
have
we've
much
been
of it
playing
at
2014. Yep.
all. But looking at these actually make sense for like the first time play, like because
The character
sheets.
Yeah, the character cards.
Because I'm looking on here and I was expecting to see ability scores. There's no ability scores. There's just modifiers.
Correct.
Which
Again, the rules
like
light.
it's
One less thing.
one less
right.
thing because honestly, once you get them in, you don't use them.
Right.
You just need that. So they
To know
like,
what the modifier is for the ability.
I could see like it going into this and actually enjoying it, but I would have to be real careful because it's not the same, and I'd be sitting there twitching at some stuff.
Right.
I
You'd
don't
almost
think-
have to
I-
think of it as a separate game.
I don't think I could
And
like.
that's going back to what I read. That's kind of what people were doing. If I'm going to put myself in the position of not playing Dungeons and Dragons before
Yeah.
bringing, and it's tough to do. Zero expectations, zero. But I like the answer. Jess, what about you? I think it's unique, your perspective, because like you said, it was not so very long ago and not so many versions ago that you were introduced to the game. You were, of course, subject to a table that ran away from Raw as quickly as it could roar. But what do you think, especially from your experience? You said you had fun playing through it. Would you find any value into locking in and going from a slate clean standpoint and learning 5.5 as it's written?
So I think that me, as I am now, with the experience I've already got, the tables and the campaigns that we already have going, honestly, this is pointless.
Okay.
Because we homebrew everything to hell anyway.
Right.
I learn, if we're happy with our homebrewed rules, we can read, we have enough experience to be able to read the new rules and the new DM manual and whatever else that they released and digest those and understand them.
Right.
Because we have the experience to do that and know what that means.
So it doesn't really bring any value
The
to
dumbing down of it is not, I don't think it's useful necessarily for very experienced players.
Gotcha.
However, that being said, this actually, I would have really liked this when I first started.
Oh, had learned that way. Mm-hmm.
And especially if more than one of us had been new. I was the only new one.
Sure.
And I might have felt a little less overwhelmed by all of the different rules and trying to figure out what I was doing if I'd had some kind of like pre-game. This is how there will be more rules later. You'll learn more specifics about the rules later, but this is about how a game goes.
Everything from like figuring out how do I walk around and tell somebody I want to talk to that tree? Like how do I move in a world? All of that stuff is, and you also at that time just got fed lore by the fire hose.
Oh yeah.
Like it was just.
So like this would have been like here's the taste test before you eat the whole cake.
Makes very good sense.
That would have been amazing to have. And like I can try it out before I really invest in a whole character. And because like when I was making my very first character, I was looking at that character sheet and I was overwhelmed as hell. I had to have Katie walk me through every single piece of it and try to explain what the hell it was to me. Whereas this would have been so much easier to just like, okay,
More
I can start with
digestible.
this. I can learn how it all works. And now I'm ready to create my own and I'll understand it a lot better without the stress. So for a brand new player, this would be great.
Right.
And all of the stuff that we've said about it, it's like, yeah, I mean, there are critiques, sure, but this would have been great.
Okay.
So I would have loved it then.
Very, very cool. Arcadia, you didn't play it. You ran it. What does it hold any allure to you to jump into this card and token system, go through 3 levels, and then approach 5.5 like a new game? Or
for me, I think it's a matter of I would love to play through all of the little adventures they put together there. I'd love to develop those characters into level 3 characters. What I really appreciated from it is that it was a distinctive difference in what I have typically considered Dungeons and Dragons approach to the game. Really heavily leaned more into a collaborative narrative story. And not just as well, that's how we like to play it at our table, but more of how they had it set up and presented.
And what needed to be filled in, what still needed to be provided versus the endless detail and Gygaxian table filled modules of RU.
Right, which we all love, but
give me the damn table.
The narrative is becoming what it is becoming more popular.
And you feel-
and aside from that, that more open, loose framework allows you to be the murder hobos if you want to be.
Sure.
But it also allows you to be the smarmy politicians working your way through everything if you want to be. It's
cool.
and anything in between. And so I like that if you clean slate, you step back, if you jump into this as a module and run through it, it may help if you are an experienced player. it may help you approach D&D in a completely different way if that could be enjoyable to you.
Right. Very interesting insight. Very cool topic. And I'm glad that you guys got some time to play. I'm glad to talk about games that we actually are playing. This one, of course, not a new game.
Can I say one more thing before we close out?
Absolutely.
I think at the core of all of this, all of our goofy shenanigans and everything, it's really well, and it comes down to, would we recommend this? You know, and what I would say is, if people are interested in D&D, they've never played before, I would recommend this. However, I would recommend that I wouldn't say don't play it if you don't have an experienced GM, but that would be my one caveat is if you can find someone who knows the game a little bit to do the GMing to introduce you to the game with it, I think that would be your sweet spot in it.
Might make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Got it. Very good stuff. Guys, thank you so much for bringing that to the table. All of the input, all of the hilarity, the first and second attempt to restart this episode will be findable on Patreon very soon.
I think didn't we go through like 3?
I don't know. This still might be one of them. I still might dump this.
Try number 3 was, hopefully, if you don't dump this one, was the one that was the third time's the charm.
We pulled it together.
Yeah, we did manage to get our shit together to actually do.
We appreciate you guys listening, having all the fun with us. Please come out and tell us how your experience with the Dungeons and Dragons 5.5 starter sets was, and your opinion on our opinions is always welcome on social media.
Come at me, bro.
You can leave a comment on the YouTube video. That's on the Word Leaf Media YouTube page. There is a Patreon. Go find it. It's under Finding Atoria. There's gorgeous buttons on our Wordleaf, www.wordleafmedia.com / Finding Atoria. There's a button there that'll take you to the Patreon. Please support the show. Please tune in to us every week, and please have a good day. Tell them bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. This episode of Finding Atoria is brought to you by Wordleaf Media. Find us at wordleafmedia.com / Finding Atoria if you or anyone you know has stories or other good things to say about TTRPGs. Get a hold of us. You can find us on all the social medias.
This episode of Finding Atoria is brought to you by Wordleaf Media. Are you interested in sharing stories of your favorite TTRPG experiences? If so, reach out at www.wordleafmedia.com / contact us on our socials, or you can now leave a comment on your favorite Finding Atoria episode at our Wordleaf Media YouTube channel.